This is Niki ROwland for Hip Kit Club, and today I'm designing a layout using the September kits. So I have the September main kit, I also have the Project Life kit, and I also have the embellishment kit. I'm using a cut file today, and that is the full wreath, and I've cut that using one of the dark blue Indigo Hills 2 papers. So I've cut that out of a pattern paper, and as you can see there, I'm planning to I've got that floral wreath to start off with, and I'm planning now to fussy cut a whole bunch of flowers from that sheet there, and the gold sheet too, the Maggie Holmes Willow Lane gold foiled vellum. I'm planning to fussy cut a lot of those and kind of layer them up on top of my wreath. That's what I'm doing at the moment, doing some serious fussy cutting. Those flowers on that paper are absolutely perfect for this kind of thing. There are loads of them, they're all in lovely clusters. You can fussy cut them all out together and they look really, really beautiful. So what I'm doing there is I've just kind of folded up the edges of my cut file a little bit to give it a bit of dimension. Now you can see that's the paper I cut the wreath from, but obviously the other side, and I've just taken the middle out of that properly, put my white cardstock on top, and there you go, there's my background ready. I've now got my wreath in place, and I'm just carrying on doing lots of fussy cutting. I do this for quite a while because I arrange it all, and then I take it all off, and then I rearrange it all. I won't make you watch me do all of it, but yeah, those flowers absolutely perfect. I absolutely love the free cut files that's available to subscribers, and there's a couple of freebies as well. This is one that's subscriber exclusive, and it's a really beautiful wreath. I knew immediately that I would have to use that, it would normally cut my cut files out of white cardstock or a solid cardstock, but on this occasion I thought I'd go for a pattern paper. I have two of each of the papers, so I didn't mind too much to use one of those. One of my tricks whenever I do that is to use the other side of the paper as an outline for my layout, which is exactly what. Okay, so I've fussy cut all of my bits and pieces out now. So now I'm arranging it all onto my wreath. I couldn't decide if I wanted my flowers to be on top of my wreath or underneath it. In the end, I opted for a bit of both. What I just did there was go through all the ephemera, lovely, beautiful ephemera, and pick out all of the bits that I could possibly use. So I picked out a few, there's a couple of those flower clusters, so I picked out some of those, and there's some smaller flowers as well, little tiny ones, and some leaves as well, so I pulled all of those out, I've also fussy cut some bits from the gold vellum sheet there as well, and I'm really faffing around trying to arrange those flowers clusters onto my wreath. I couldn't quite decide where it all should go. I knew I wanted a bit to the bottom left of the photos, but then the cluster at the top just seemed too big, and I just wasn't happy with it. I really tried hard to get this looking balanced, and it just wasn't happening for me for some reason. So it's all on at the moment, and it will all come off again in a minute. So this is just part of the process, really. Takes a little while to get things sorted until you're happy with them. So yeah, that's what I'm just doing right now. I can see I'm making the cluster at the bottom right of the photo now. I'm making that a bit bigger, and that feels like the wreath is much more balanced. So I have the two floral clusters, large clusters at the corners of my photos, and I have smaller ones going around the rest of the wreath. And what I'm just doing there is taking a photo of it, as I'm happy with her positioning, but I want to take it all off, as I'm doing now, to add some gold stitching around the edge of around the centre circle of the wreath. Okay, so that's my stitching done. I literally went around 3 times on the sewing machine using a gold thread, and what I'm doing right now is pulling all of the ends through. Because I overstitched on some places, I've found it quite challenging to pull the ends back through, but I managed it in the end, just securing those on the back there. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Okay, got it the right round now. So now I'm just sticking that white background onto the border that I made earlier, and I'm trying to figure out what layers I should put behind my photos. So I figured I'd pull out a couple of the gorgeous Project Life cards and see if I can get those to work. And I've also used a piece of the floral paper that I've used the other side of it to mount the other photo there too. So I'm just getting those in place, and I'm raising them up on foam pads at the top and sticking them flat at the bottom so they look like they're kind of growing out of the middle of the wreath. I've got that title there, Love, which is from the ephemera pack. There was a leaf that was coming under the L that just didn't quite look right, so I just chopped that one off, and I'm going to finish the title with the next two words from the little letters from the Project Life kit. So that will say Love My Boys. So I'm just getting that in place before I arrange everything else. So yeah, my photos, I'm happy with the layering behind the photos, literally just one border each, and I'm tucking those in, and then I can refer back to the photo I took on my phone, and add all of the flowers clusters back to where they should be. So I'm sticking those with a mixture of tape just to hold them in place, and then raising up some of the outer parts with foam pads. I tried really hard to get my wreath completely balanced. So I said I've got those three big clusters, the title at the top, and then in between the bigger clusters I've gone for some smaller leaves, and there was a small spray from the paper that I cut that I've put in three places, and I've also made sure that there's a gold leaf from the Maggie Holmes foiled vellum in each of those little clusters too. This just really kind of makes the gold interspersed all around evenly all around the layout, and what with the gold thread that brings the whole thing together in the circle shape. Great. I mean, it's looking really lovely actually. The foil from the foiled vellum is just beautiful, so I wanted to get quite a bit of that in. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I'm just finishing off now, getting everything in place, and I found this little sticker there from the Pink Fresh stickers, and I've popped that in the middle of my layout there. It's kind of like acts like a little subtitle, and then I'm trying to insert some of those Amy Tan foam flowers. They're really cool, but they're quite big and thick and quite challenging to use. In the end, I decided that I didn't like the orange one, and I've swapped that out for the light pink one, I think. I'm just using some of the chipboard from the Indigo Hills too. There you go. That's where I put the small pink, put the flat pink flower in. The red just wasn't, the rusty colour just wasn't working. Yeah, so there's some really lovely shapes on the chipboard sheet. They're all quite large, apart from some of the really small ones. So I couldn't fit in any of the larger shapes. So I've just pulled out some of the small hearts and popped a few of those in there. So I've got one in the middle, one next to my title, and one at the top. Yeah, so I'm now just finishing off, going around, seeing what else I can fit in. Love those wood veneer stickers by Pink Fresh Indigo Hills too. They're really, really lovely. They're like coloured wooden stickers with foil on them as well, gold foil. So now what I'm using is some enamel dots. They're also Pink Fresh Indigo Hills too, and also I've pulled out there the Wisteria Lane Shimmers paint from the September colour kit, and I'm just about to add some splatters using that. There we go. Okay, so I'll just go around and add those everywhere. I tend to, rather than take this directly out of the little pot, I tend to put it on a craft sheet like I've just done, spritz it with some water to make it slightly more runny, and then I find out it flicks really well with a paintbrush, so that's what I've done there. And now I'm trying my best to figure out where I can write the date. I really struggled to find somewhere that wasn't, because it's such a busy layout, that somewhere that worked. So I finally settled on that bottom right corner. Okay, so that's my layout done. Thank you so much for watching me today. The September kits you can pick up in the Hip Kit Club store. They're mostly still available and they're absolutely gorgeous. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. That was Niki ROwland for Hip Kit Club.